Hi everyone, today I want to talk to you about a vintage pen, and it's one of my earliest vintage pens that I acquired, and it's the Pelikan 400NN. This is a vintage Pelikan, and I believe it was made between 1956 and 1965, so it's definitely older than me, it was one of the first ones I got. It's definitely not in perfect shape, but I got it for a really good price. I believe someone was selling off an old collection from their grandfather or grandmother, and this was one of the pens in the collection that I got. It's not perfect because it has some discoloration. When I got it, the nib was actually crooked on the feed. I'll show you a close-up of what the nib looks like now, and the barrel, of course, and you will be able to see the discoloration on this. Even though it wasn't perfect when I got it, and it's still not perfect, it is a very lovely writer. Pelikan vintage nibs are often semi-flexible, and some are even very flexible, so they're a joy to write with. We'll switch this shot, and I'll show you the barrel without ink, because it is semi-translucent, so I want to show you without ink and with ink before we actually do the writing sample. Alright, let's switch the shot. Okay, here we have a close-up of the Pelikan 400NN. So this pen is a vintage Pelikan, and as you can see, it has slightly different shape than the current Pelikans, because it's not a flat top. So generally, Pelikans now, the new ones, the M400, the M800, M600, have flat top, barrel end and cap. As you can see, this pen has sort of a dome on the top, and it's just a different style. The clip has stayed mostly the same throughout the years. It's a very classic Pelikan clip. And the finishes have also not changed all that much. So Pelikan was always bringing out these striped finishes. They had a green striped version of this pen. This is technically the brown tortoise, but as you can see, it does not really look very brown. And that's because it became discolored. That might have been because of sunshine, may have been it was left in the light too much in general, but it's also just old age. This pen is about 60 years old, so it cannot be perfect. If you look at the color right here, you can see that where the cap ended, there's definitely a difference in color. So it used to be much browner than it is now. So it definitely used to be the brown tortoise, but I would not call this the brown tortoise anymore. It is just bleached. That does not mean that I don't love this pen, because I still really love it. It was very cheap. I did not pay more than 60 euros for this, and it is a 14K gold nib, so that's very good. I have not inked it yet. I don't know if you can see how translucent this barrel is, but it is fairly translucent. You can also see a discoloration here from old ink. When I got this, it was not clean. It was just a dirty old pen. It left in a drawer too long. But yeah, cleaned it up. Took the nib unit out of the housing, which is a little scary because the feed is made from ebonite. I don't know how well I can show you that. It's made from ebonite, and it breaks fairly easily. The vintage Pelikans have different types of feeds than the modern ones. As you can see, those elongated sort of stripes on there. That's definitely a vintage Pelikan feed. And yeah, it's just a lovely writer. When I got this, the nib was not straight on the feed, so it was definitely not usable. I could not use this without it being scratchy or very paper rippy, basically. And I was afraid to actually fix this myself, but after a long time of no use of this pen, I just bit the bullet and I was like, I have to fix it because otherwise it's not getting used. In Europe, you don't have very many nibmeisters. You can go to shows and find someone who can work on the nib, but that is not very easy because there's not many pen shows and not that many people and plenty of people who want work to be done on their pen. But what I eventually did, I soaked the nib and then took the nib and the feed out of the nib housing and then re-entered it into the feed, into the housing. And it's not perfect because the nib is not fully in here. It is a little bit more elongated than general vintage Peli nibs are, but it works. And that was like my main concern. So I made it work, and now it's a functioning pen and I love it. I think it's time to ink it up. I'll show you what ink I'm putting in here. It is Sailor 123. I'll do the inking off camera so it doesn't take too long, but I'll show you the glory of vintage Pelikan nibs in a second. Okay, here we are with the inked 400 NN. Do not know if you can see the ink sloshing around in there. I don't think so. I think the ink might just be a little too dark. But let's go for a writing sample because, of course, the main feature of this pen is the nib. Now, I haven't written with this in a while, so I hope it all works out. Let's do normal writing first. 400 NN, wait for it to focus. And this ink is Sailor 123. I wouldn't call this a very wet ink, but it's also not super dry. It has that very typical sailor ink smell. I don't know if people know about this, but it's very chemical. Okay. So normal stripes. I don't think I've told you guys what nib size it is, but this is a KF, and that's basically a Kugelfein, and that means it's a rounded nib and not a flat or tipless. If you push it, you can definitely get some variation out there. Don't just randomly try this with any nib you have. You need to really test the waters. So this is normal, kind of boring, but you can definitely go for some charismatic writing. And this nib is just a bunch of fun. Like, it's truly happy making. Yeah, I'm not really good at writing with flexi nibs, but it's just a fun exercise to do. Yeah, there's not much else to say except for scour eBay for vintage Pelikans. That's my advice. They are by far my favorite Pelikans to use. And if you look hard enough or find an auction, you can definitely find something cheap. Cheap gold nibs. I found that at pen shows, you can find these pens, but at pen shows, they are fairly expensive, in my opinion. And I get it. Like, the people selling them want to get a good price on them, but they're also worth more money because they are so good. However, I'm a big fan of bargains, so I like to scour eBay. Anyway, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was informative. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.